Hey, Harastas. Hello, everyone. Today, Sophia and I are discussing the renovation of the villas on Palma. My name is Alexei Glaskov, and today we'll tell you how an investor can find a villa on a palm tree under renovation with this question. I asked myself this question 2 years ago when I was actively involved in attracting investors in Dubai. San, hi.
可以，Hey,
Veosha, I need a second head because when you're talking all by yourself, it's actually really hard to keep your energy level high. I wanted to ask, what problems does an investor face when looking for a villa on the Palm, and what conditions do you need to meet to find one? Because we understand that in the luxury segment, there are a lot of fakes, and for obvious reasons. Because considering that we have a system for recognizing unit numbers, including GPS coordinates and the exact villa locations. Today, I'm going to show you the advantages of our platform and why you should use it to save your time and work professionally with the market. Dubai. Let me tell you again. Refdi is a secondary housing market search system with additional data markup that allows you to save time. 95% of objects do not fit your thesis. What is Palm Jumeirah? Palm Jumeirah is the second landmark in Dubai after Burj Khalifa, which Dubai is proud of. This location began active construction in 2008. In fact, Dubai had much bigger plans. If you look at Dubai's plans for 2020, 2025, 2030, there were even more plans. But it's good that they still dream and think on a very global scale. Actually, having big plans, even if only 20 to 30% are realized, is already a good thing. I wish I could show you what the palm looks like overall.
Alexi, am I right in understanding that in the future we can expect even more palms with even more villas? Are there actually such plans among the developers?
Well, if we'll touch on this topic a little bit now. Indeed, there's Deira Palm, which is a bit to the right, and Jebel Ali, where for the past 2 years, villas have been actively sold and developed. I'll just mention that the Dubai Land Department is developing the first coastline, I think up to 75 kilometers, and they're increasing the number of land plots. We've seen positive growth from 200,000 land plots to 225,000 over the past year and a half. So the number of land plots has increased by 10%. This means that, well, the land is there. They're just surveying it, classifying it under their own MUT numbers, municipal numbers, parcel ID, area ID, basically all the necessary parameters so that they can be assigned in the future. And accordingly, there are two types of land. These are leasehold and freehold. Since you're far from Russia, you know what leasehold is, especially in Thailand and Bali. These are lands that can't be fully owned. Only locals can own them. If you are a foreigner, you have the right to lease them for a certain number of years. You have limited conditions for owning these assets. And there's this concept called GCC. It's like people who are in this region, meaning those who have a passport from the United Arab Emirates, for example, or from the Arabian Gulf, have the right to own these lands. But looking ahead, the Dubai Land Department has actually introduced a new field, leasehold to freehold. This means that some lands that are currently leasehold and unsuitable for development will soon start appearing as freehold. And many people who understand this are buying up these lands so that in the future they can offer these lands to developers or work together on joint projects, making investments as sub-partners or partners with the developers. Another possible option is to sell the land later on. In fact, many companies don't own land directly under a Dubai company, but rather through so-called structures from BVI. This structure is a company located in such a DIAC zone. It's a special economic zone where transactions don't actually take place in Dubai, but there are often offices there. And the second structure is in Abu Dhabi, in the ADM zone, which is quite an expensive area. There, parent company ownership is often used. For example, if you have a family trust in Switzerland, you can have that family trust in Switzerland own, say, an ADM company in Abu Dhabi. And the ADM company in Abu Dhabi can, for instance, own real estate properties in Dubai. That's the kind of structure we're talking about. Back to our topic. Honestly, I could talk about this subject for a long time. I really love Dubai, and I love everything that's happening in his absolutely amazing city, which in fact is like a startup that quickly implements the best innovations out there.
That's all. Could you do a quick review before we move on to the analytics? Just a brief review about Plan Jimmer in general. Maybe there will be people watching us who don't understand why this area, aside from just being a second parliamentary marvel, is such a good place to invest money. Why is it considered that way? It's just a premium segment.
Well, first of all, because this area is quite developed, it was built in 2008 and has been growing very actively. And the second thing is that it's actually quite beautiful. Hold on a second, let me do this.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
Beautiful and it's safe.
Yeah. Okay. And plus, it's just prestigious and cool to know that. You own property right in the very heart, the core of Dubai. It's like a little piece, an island, a paradise island, right in the middle of this whole metropolis. It's basically right in the sea. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, the Arabian Gulf, actually. That's what it's often called. The Persian Gulf. Arabs like to call it the Arabian Gulf. I think it's pretty clear here, yeah. What are we seeing on the screen here? Actually, I really like analyzing the market's capacity. And I always think in terms of how many villas have actually been built in Dubai, specifically on Palm Jumeirah. There are 1,652 villas built on the Palm. Here on the left, we can see Palm Jumeirah. The project is completed. Project, no project. The thing is that when these villas began to be built, on the branches, they began to be built. Villas, garden rooms, signature villas. The thing is that they didn't have a project name. Memory GMR was actually the name of the project itself. So here we don't see the name of the project, but there are 1,424 villas. So if someone asks how many villas have been built in total, there are 1,424 villas. How do we know this?
That's quite a lot.
And there are 15 branches. A bit later, we'll move on to the map itself, and I'll explain. This is the first thing you need to understand. And you can also see that most of these properties were built in 1366. The villas were built in 2012. You can see it, right, on this kind of chart. On the right, we see all the transactions that exist. I can show you the data for the entire period. Let's say, for example, let's take the year 2008. Let's take that for instance. Let's look at the last 15 years just to get an idea of how it developed.
Did you mention why it's important for an investor to understand the overall capacity?
Well, because when transactions happen, say for example, 10% of the total capacity is transacted, your area develops faster. But when you have, say, only 10 or 20 transactions out of 1,400 villas, the price isn't going to move along with the market. In other words, there's no liquidity in the area, and it's harder to liquidate. Liquidity events happen much more slowly. Your exposure period increases threefold. So there's a basic rule, make it your rule, that you should have, if you want to buy a property and keep it in a liquid state, the demand should be such that over the course of a year, you have, well, thank God, 100 transactions out of 1,000 built. That's all it is. Whether it's apartments or if it's a building, then apartments. If it's a district, a location, I don't know, villas, then 10%. If it's less than that, the pace will be slower. Now we can look here at villas and see how they've developed. Really, the price per square meter, how it changed. In 1950, it was 806. Now it's around 4,400. So it's gone up to about 4,400. So it is almost quadrupled and grown. Yeah, so let's take the last year, since that's what we're analyzing. The last year. We see that the price has increased by 56%, and the price per foot has gone up by 39%. There is very high demand for this location. Nice. Now I'll just select only villas, our favorites, yeah? And I'll see that the average price of a villa is 24 million dirhams on average. There you go.
Yeah, indeed.
We can also see the distribution between 30 million. It's visible here on the chart. Let me show it a bit slower. Like this, between 30 million and 64. Why is there such a spread? The thing is, the 30 million villas are like the lower branches. For example, the lower numbered units. The lower numbered units of the buildings, for example, on each branch, we consider the lower numbers depending on the length of the branch. If there are 120 units on a branch, then it turns out The first 40 villas from the start of the numbering will be the lower ones. If there are 90 on a branch, then it's the first 30. So that's how we understand it. That's why there's such a range between 30 and 64 million. The upper end, these are actual figures. So right now, we're not talking about the advertised price that's listed on local portals. We're talking about the price that actually reflects liquidity. We also see how the price per foot varies from 4,000. The range is from 4,000 dirhams up to 6,300. And in terms of the number of deals per month, if I recall correctly, there are about 19 villa transactions, and for apartments, about 19 to 15 deals. We can see, yes. So from these, we also notice an interesting point. Let's take a look. Deals, the number of transactions basically, with a revolutionary spread. So what is a spread? Today's episode is dedicated to discussing the question, is there renovation happening on the Palm? Here's what that means. The concept of renovation on the Palm. This is when an investor who enters a property, taking all expenses into account, can earn from 15% compound interest. Taking into account the holding period, for example, 12 or 14 months, or 20%. In other words, he should be able to pull out 15 to 20% net profit. So, for example, he invested $10 million and got back 11 million. $11,500,000, meaning he made 15% net profit within a year. Or he pulled out 1.2 million, so $12 million, meaning he invested $10 million. Taking all expenses into account, he pulled out $12 million. But since the holding period wasn't 12 months, but say 15 months, his compound interest will be different. It won't be 20%. So the return on investment, considering compound interest and the holding period, the period of owning the asset, it would be more accurate to say 15%. So you need to keep track of the price you enter at and the price you exit at. And it's not just the price of the asset itself, but also the price per square foot. Because when we do the calculations, today I'll be showing calculations for renovation expenses, which many people don't consider at all. They don't take into account that expansion is necessary. The area, you need to expand it from 4 bedrooms to 5 bedrooms, that is. Make it 5 rooms. You have to pay extra to the developer from this. These are very long and complicated approvals, and for a year and a half to almost 2 years, the developer, Nikhil, has increased the cost for expansion. This reduces profitability, and that's why, as I see here on the screen, there are 3 deals here, of which the average size is 680, 30 million. A deal right away at 4,000 per square foot, the lower price range. The cheapest is 23 million, and the top 20% are at 50 million. We can see the difference in the spread between these 20%, the most expensive 25%, and the cheapest. So that's 37%, which I think is the floor limit. Because the spread should be at least on the Palm, well, at least 40 to 50%. Later, I'll show how it's calculated, how to read it.
Why do you think the spread should be at least 40%?
Because honestly, when you renovate on the Palm, when you gut everything to the walls, the expenses are really high. If you just do a minimal renovation, you simply won't be able to sell to the end buyer who really knows the product well. And I've looked at more than one. I think I saw at least 20 before making a decision. In fact, the end buyer looks at all the villas before buying. We're not talking about $1 million here. It's 12, 15, $20 million. Serious money. So on average, the entry price to participate comes out. Let's look at what prices properties are listed for after renovation. Let's mainly take the range from 55 million, starting at 55, and look at the so-called top market. And let's roughly review these deals. So the number of these deals, let me check, 256. To be objective, let's do this. Let's take a 12-month period. Yes, like this. For efficiency, let's use 12 months. So the first thing you need to do is make sure that at least within a year, there are at least 10 deals in the renovation segment. Yes, at least 10. So 282 deals with a mortgage and 178 without a mortgage, you see? That means almost 40% of all deals are done with mortgage leverage. Surprising, isn't it? So 178 are mortgage transactions. I removed 178 deals. Tell me, please, 178 out of 1,440? Is that a lot? That's more than 15%, right? Yes, 178 divided by 1,440. What percent? That's what I was talking about. Does that confirm the demand for the location? Yes, of course. You see what I mean? So, in this regard, the demand is really strong. And this is resale. This is the secondary market. So, it's very hot.
Super.
People are buying. Yes. Now, look, if you're into renovations and want to calculate not just the entry, the evaluation, and the exit, you also need to understand something else: the exposure period. A bit later, I'll tell you that besides the fact that most agencies on the Palm, with names that sound like something from outer space, the company actually advertises completely different properties. For obvious reasons. They don't want to reveal them, more or less. They hide about 20%. According to our estimates, about 15 to 20% are taken off the market. And, well, that's how it is. We're not against working with brokers. Moreover, I'll say that accordingly with broker ethics, we have automatically signed contracts and showings that have already been done. We're actually looking for a villa to renovate on the Palm. Today, I'll show what reports we offer investors and the tool we provide so they can monitor things themselves. And only after we've given them the report do they go to the villa to take a look. In other words, so they don't waste their time. Sometimes you arrive at a villa and they tell you, oh, that's a different villa. So our system immediately identifies which villa it is. We send reports on it because we go out and inspect it in advance.
That
After that, we demonstrate a professional approach for the investor, something unfortunately no agency in Dubai is able to do. It's not because they can't sell, no, but because of this cycle of searching and deceiving the investor. When you come to see one villa, then another, but in reality, it's a completely different third one. They show you as if you're at some place like Front B. And then they say, this villa is just like that one. I just can't show it to you. In reality, you don't have a relationship with the owner and just want to bring in the in buyer or investor. And another 50% of brokers don't even respond to messages. Of the 50% who do respond, 70% aren't willing to work with other brokers. So you end up working with owners, but you still want a 4% commission. This creates a conflict of interest. So the value for the owner comes from the end client. I think the owner could actually just sell directly. I don't know. It's something to think about, honestly, because it seems to me that a lot of useless actions are being taken in the last mile with a conflict of interest, and that's what's being offered. Because the commission of 10 million, as you understand, is only from one side. That's $200,000. Plus, if the owner pays even just half a percent, that's $300,000, which gets split with the company, so $150,000. If you close four such deals, you're not doing badly, $160,000. Yeah,
But at the same time, the investor is only being offered a segment of the market. So it turns out that an investor who wants to buy a villa in Poundamere, working only with agencies and without analytics from our company, only sees part of the market being offered to him. And there are some villas that no one will ever show him.
well, that's my pain point, which I ran into in 2023 when I was looking for a villa for a real investor. Brokers often told me that this was strictly off market. There's no online market, everything there is fake. Today, I'll show you that's not the case because we always tend to believe the lies we tell ourselves. When people trust us, we end up not only deceiving ourselves, but others as well. Well, that's just a trait we have. That's why you should always welcome the term. Do your own research. Please, investors, do your own research. Don't trust us or the brokers. Do your own research using our tool. You'll get all the information fully detailed. Right now, I just want to show you that we also have rental data. You can see, yes, 336 contracts. The average contract price is 1,000,000 dirhams. The cheapest is 678,000, and the most expensive, the top 20%, is 2 million. You can also see the distribution across all contracts. Here you can see how they're spread out. You can look at just the new contracts, for example. You can see that there are 206 new contracts. That's pretty cool, you know? How many were bought out of 1,440? 178, right? They overlap a bit with the 178. That's 12%. So 178 plus them plus add 206 new contracts.
384, exactly.
Yeah,
Nice. Yeah. So it turns out that some of the villas are being bought to rent them out. So that's also part of the strategy, which brings returns to the investor. Is that right?
Well, let's add up the two numbers to see what kind of return we might get. Let's do it. Because if someone is investing more than $10 million in real estate, roughly, for the end buyer, do you think returns matter to them? I mean, for the investor? Yeah, always.
It matters. Let me explain.
The thing is, for them, what's actually more important is just preserving the value of that real estate asset, getting at least some return, even if it's 4% or 5%. It doesn't really matter. And on top of that, the property itself is appreciating, you know? Sometimes it's actually much more profitable to buy a villa on the secondary market and rent it out than to buy an apartment that's growing by 12%, but only gives you 7% a year, you see? Because villas will always be in demand.
That's cool. Interesting. Okay, so what would be the approximate rental yield then?
Well, let's try to calculate it. Look, let's take an average. Let's say 1.5 million dirhams. That's about average, yeah? 1.5 million dirhams. And after that, let's go back to the average of 28. 1.5 million, yeah, to right. 1.5 million, 20 million. We get 5.3%. The figure will be around 5 million. 5%. Just imagine you bought a villa for 10 million, kept your money, just did a simple save. And every year you get 1.5 million, maybe a little less. Let me check. 400,000, $408,000. That's about $35,000 a month. Yeah, someone might say I could invest that money in smaller assets. The thing is, people who have made $10 million honestly don't care how much they earn. What matters to them is preserving their money and getting that money. That's it. It's not about making 10%. It's a completely different mindset altogether. I used to wonder why they do that too. You know, it's like when some fund manager comes in, a hedge fund manager or a family office manager, and says, yeah, on average, we make 15% for our investors. But for someone who owns a place on the palm, he honestly doesn't care. He's got, say, 20 years left to live, more or less, and losing money just doesn't matter to him. Capital is much riskier than just getting an extra 10 or 15%. So what? He'll make an extra $1 million. He doesn't care about that. You get it, right?
Yeah, see.
Has all the resources and money he needs. Yeah. Interesting.
Interesting. But renovation, it turns out, is still an opportunity for investors to make money.
Yeah, there's a benefit, but it's riskier. Honestly, guys, renovation doesn't really exist. Renovation is just improving the property from a complete overhaul, like demolition of the walls, like on the Palm, to just minimal fixtures, some furniture, or a basic studio setup, something like that. In a location where there's demand of about 10 to 15%. And in terms of rentals, we see demand for there are 206 new contracts here. Yeah, we haven't even counted the new contracts yet, which would add even more, but nothing new is being built. Obviously, the Palm is almost 95% already developed. Although there are still some vacant units, including on the Palm, there's a spread of about three. That is, the higher end class of real estate properties, for example, Emirates Hills or Bulgari, are much higher in terms of price range.
Yeah.
Plus, these four or so criteria are enough to make an assessment. And there are at least 5 to 10 deals per year. So it turns out that if 1,440 are sold with 168 deals per year, then 15 to 16 deals per year should be renovation deals that confirm the spread. Right now, I just want to show it again so it's clear. I'm just taking 50 million and entering it here.
Why 50 million?
Well, earlier I showed that the lower range is about 30 million, so you need 20%, which is roughly 50% in relative terms. We're looking at this kind of spread so that moving forward, more.
Oh, I get it. So right now we're looking at the exit price. So if an investor buys a villa for 30, does renovations, and then lists it for 50.
Yes, and there are actually two more types of villas very often. Here we can see that. There are about 17 deals you can see, right? That's exactly the minimum threshold. So 17 out of 1,440. And these properties were sold for 81 million. 74, 70, 69, 65, 65, 64, 62, 61, 55, 55, 55, 54, 50. 50, 50, 50. But the most interesting thing out of all the villas I see here, because the square meter here is the payment size, not the BA size. That is, sometimes it's the size of the house. And only one of them was a Carta. It was sold, you see. Garden, home, the rest are signal shake. That's a different type. Villa signal shake. So you really need to be very careful. I mean, only rely on the verified data that we have. And only one villa, actually. In this price range, only one innovative one was sold. Well, Garden Home. That's why today we'll look at both Signature and Garden Home. But overall, I gave you the minimum. If you're going to tell investors or show them whether there are innovations, you need to understand what type of villa you're planning to compete with, because you're not the only one on this market. Now I'm going to do a quick reset.
Can you make it brief? Just a quick overview for now. Garden Home, Homes, and Signature. Why is this important? To understand who you can compete with. Garden Homes, as I understand it, that's the super top tier.
Well, that's a type of villa, probably, yeah. I'm probably not too familiar with the villa types, but it's just more square shaped, while Signature is more French style, that French type. Basically, what happens is when Hill was building in Dubai, he actually became the end buyer. Garden homes are often used, probably more by Europeans, like the British, for example. It's that kind of international type, the standard type. I'll show you. Let me go big. Let me share my screen now. Like this one, for example. This is the garden. Can you see it? Like this one, for example.
Yeah.
You can see it, right? And we actually just recently viewed this villa, right?
We did a showing, yes, for investors.
A showing, it's not clear. Now there's a feature for investors. This is a renovated villa. Actually, no, it's not renovated. It's more of a minimalistic style. But look, it's priced at 32 million, 500. And we have, for this particular one, let me just take a moment to consider.
Nice. So garden homes and Signature are types of layouts, you could say. And you really need to pay attention to that.
31st. And here, the view is just beautiful. I actually like this one more. It's quieter here, even though there's some construction going on. And I like the view here better. And
File number 2. So this is already inside.
so they made a minor update to the chair as well. It's much fresher in this area. And additionally, they completely replaced the new floors. Here, and it's more pleasant with them. Okay, so this is what we have. There are some scoundrels buzzing around there, some fucking ones of their own. Builders, in short. So, further. Yeah. There is a small storage room here. Here, we have arrived.
Bedroom, small table here, balcony here. It's reasonable to have a hill with the fence here, because
I have certainly something to say.
this particular kind of spot right here, so when I carefully lift it up during any necessary repairs or maintenance, it will be much easier to access and work on.
There's a rather long staircase here. And as I was previously informed, there's also an accessible exit to the very top of the roof.
We're currently investigating it thoroughly.
In general,
So that we stay focused overall on what we're actually looking at, because we saw the listing, but there wasn't much info when we checked it out inside. The price matches, it's great. You can come in and take a look, and you can even try to negotiate it down, considering we're renting, and who's advertising it, and for how long.
How many days has it been advertised now? Let's go back here.
I won't go through it all again, because
Bing! You just sit at home, you don't have to go anywhere, you watch, and everything's already been checked out for you.
yeah, let me just explain now. So I've already talked about the analytics in general. Now, let's look at the tools. For example, I'm an investor. I want to find a villa in Garden Homes for myself and check out the villas. So, an investor has two options. Second, they can set up GardoComb themselves in this tool and monitor only the properties that fit their criteria, like those suitable for renovation. If they're not sure or if they want to see what we've marked in the report, they can just click the Request a Tour button. I'll show you how it works in a moment. And let's say, for example, in Signature, let's separate it into two types. We ended up with 210 villas, but the unique ones will be about 100 plus, and from there we exclude. Yes, 102. Plus, from there we exclude the properties that are already under renovation. We also exclude those with all-time exposing dates. There are more than
180 days, a substantial period of time, is often considered a significant benchmark for various processes and evaluations. Obviously, even 150 days, which is still a considerable duration, can also serve as a crucial point for assessment and progress tracking in many scenarios.
We'll exclude those days too. That's it. Then we click Apply. Could you explain this in more detail for viewers? We set the exposure date because villas on the market for a super long time are most likely fake or illiquid. Most likely fake. Plus, we have the price.vcm mart estimate. For villas, it's not really relevant for me right now because we're looking relative to the cluster, but you also need to look relative to layout types and views. Here, we see different views: waterfront, garden, fountain. We have specific views. Let me show you. Sea view, high number, boardwalk, marina. So we're looking at three types. We check where it faces, its number. High number, like 112, that's a high number. And we also meticulously examine the high line, this particular branch, which is clearly visible here, and we need to determine if its elevation is indeed high or not. Specifically, we are looking at the prime GMR front L. The L designation unequivocally indicates that it is in fact a high branch. Consequently, based on this crucial identification and careful observation, we can definitively see that this characteristic is present and significant, allowing us to draw further conclusions and insights from this detailed analysis. Wonderful. I didn't have this system 2 years ago. Now I do. And now you don't have to go to the Palm. You don't have to waste your time. A cup of coffee and 1 hour in Doonstroff with a former software expert will tell and show you everything. We can also see how many months your contract with the owner is signed for. 11 months. This information helps us understand a villa or not and how many agencies work with this owner. We see if you or another broker change the price and which villas you compete with.
4 bedrooms on this branch, see, right? There are 7 more villas here with a similar layout. Alexi, could you clarify, please? You set this interesting filter, renovated. You said, okay, we're not looking at renovated. So this filter helps us narrow it down and see only those that are suitable for renovation, the ones that haven't been renovated yet, right?
Yeah, right now I selected no. If we look, actually, this villa right here, it seems like it was.
Could you please explain why that is the case?
The important thing is,
Villa renovation search, investor market monitor, 2 to 4 months. Owner's urgent asset need due to circumstances.
might potentially lower the price, and thanks to our incredibly efficient and comprehensive price monitoring system, our valued and discerning potential investor can confidently expect to secure a truly exceptional and advantageous deal. Here's a clear and illustrative example for you to consider. Just take a look. You can clearly see it distinctly indicates the number 33, which is quite significant.
$1.5 million peak. What do you think, why?
Peak different, price changed. I see price dropped.
They didn't write peak. What doesn't it match? Not similar to other villas. It's way.
Cheaper compared to.
Them, go on. What price? Square foot. Comparing price per square foot. Go on.
What price does it not match with? What price does it not match with? With the owner's price. Yes, it doesn't match the owner's price. The owner set it at 47 million, and you just listed the property recently, 38 days ago. It's only been advertised for 41 days apparently on other platforms, and you have it at 33.5 million. Not a bad strategy. I would use that strategy too to attract more buyers. But at 33.5 million, it will attract a lot of buyers. However, despite its potential, it is highly improbable that this particular item will achieve a rapid sale in the current market conditions. At the age of 47, a significant milestone, one might find themselves contemplating various aspects of life and future prospects, which could influence decisions regarding such a sale.
Million, it will be on the market for at least another 6 months. We won't be looking at that villa for now.
Got it. So, how does this work? An investor sees a villa for 33 million. He thinks, "Oh, nice, good price." If he doesn't have our viewing system, he flies to Dubai to see this villa at 33 million. What happens next? Here's why the broker chose this strategy. The contract is only signed for 2 months, so it has to be super fast. If I were them, I would started looking. The price is 47 million, right? 47 is unreal. What's realistic? What's not? Let's just try to look at the front, D31, in the year home, front D. Let's just look at everything available behind the wardrobe at the best prices. I probably picked the only one for 33 million, but what can you actually buy for that money? Yes, indeed. We are specifically referring to PMR, which stands for Project Management Review, and in this particular instance, it is PMR 72. This specific project is valued at an impressive $30 million, representing a substantial investment. Furthermore, it is crucial to note that this project currently has 0 hours logged, indicating that work has not yet commenced or been recorded.
Well, unluckily,
Well, 2 months. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it looks like it. The number's too high and the price is too low. 30 million. Yeah, yeah. Number 28, front A, 35 million. The market, well, I mean, that's kind of expensive. Front C, number 60, 42 million. And it might change. You never know.
let's go on.
In the detail listing, you can clearly see what it truly looks like inside, but there's absolutely nothing from Propiter. Here, it explicitly states they're dramatically slashing prices by a significant 20%, but if the price changes, in which direction did it actually go? It actually initially went up to a substantial 47, then subsequently dropped to 44, then 45, then 42, a considerable decrease by 2,100,000. And you can see
We
right now it's moving fast because he needs to get it done quickly by February 11th.
to sell it. So, am I right in understanding that we can now track price changes for the entire time this property has existed? Not just for a year or a month, but you can actually see the whole price history? That's awesome. Really cool. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good feature because local portals don't have this information. It can truly help to comprehensively explain precisely why this particular property is currently priced in the specific way that it is, and furthermore, how you can effectively negotiate the price even further down, all the way to the very last mile of the transaction. And perhaps the most interesting and beneficial part of all this is that you can easily set up continuous monitoring, much like a sophisticated cart system, to diligently keep track of every single detail and development.
In Hobbs, something for 45 million, we can monitor all, and prices in homes could change.
And it will automatically tweet or send notifications. Yes.
This is truly awesome. Very awesome. Quite awesome.
And the system itself will send you notifications. If you like a villa, you can click. You can actually click everything, in fact. Click on everything, and
Yes. And the system will itself track what's new and what changes have occurred. Send.
notifications will be sent to you. Yes.
Yes, 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 yeah. Great. Yes.
I set them up. The system automatically sends notifications. If you like a villa, click it, and the system tracks new changes, sending you updates. Here you can clearly observe a beautiful and vibrant garden filled with an array of colorful flowers, lush green foliage, and perhaps even some charming pathways. It's a truly serene and picturesque sight to behold.
Home, specifically the home base, minus 45, meaning a countdown of 45 seconds, comes up on the main display, and I am actively monitoring all critical systems and incoming data. For example, that a really cool villa has popped up, and I want to figure out if it's fake or not, if it matches reality. And now, thanks to the REFT system, I just press one button.
In Maya, Request a Tour arranges a viewing of this villa for purchase consideration. Pressing Request a Tour sends the request to our team. Later, a chat will show specific status. Track status is here. Negative negotiations. When you click on Request a Tour, you will initiate a comprehensive experience. This includes a dynamic playing tour that guides you through the key features, an engaging effect tour showcasing interactive elements, and a compelling offer that provides significant value.
If you suddenly
Want to leave an offer, sold if it was, sign contract if you want to, and the number of fakes. We see that the number of fakes is quite high. The monitoring system saves time and money. Now let's move on to overall costs. There's a calculation I did back in October 2023. Here we were looking for a villa from Mintry with a staircase, 5 bedrooms, price, square footage, 5,000. That's the main thing inside, and to match. And here's a villa in SL. The entry price is taken into account, which is 29 million. Of course, if you take a larger number, that would cost less. Such villas cost. From here is the company setup if you want to create a personal financial holding for which you will later buy this villa. There are such things. It creates 4%. The Trustify. These are mandatory expenses. The broker is only 2%. And then the actual project design begins. You see, 3 and 2. This is, in simple terms, author supervision for innovations. There are actors who have a license. This is a specific list of people who have obtained a license to carry out such work. Accordingly, there is a level of certification for admission to such work, as well as preparatory work. Has the right to transport him into the palm. This is a specific list
Of people who got a license.
to carry out such work. There is a certification level for admission to such work. Here, the preparatory work is strict demolition of walls, including exterior landscaping and the pool. The pool is the platform expansion we're discussing, and obtaining it, so the numbers. Expense for the hill. Fittings.
Finishing up the final touches.
Finishing and fittings. Italian furniture. Because honestly, you can make so much money on furniture there. You can easily double that because your expenses for the hill, fittings, yeah, well, finishing work basically, and fittings. See Italian furniture. Because honestly, you can make so much money on furniture there. I've seen so many schemes where Chinese furniture is imported, or for example, when it's brought in without certificates, logistics, gray imports basically, it's brought in. If you have a certificate, the price will be different. It really depends on how you negotiate with the client. There's also money for transfers, but some people charge for advertising expenses. And I think, honestly, those advertising expenses
Wait,
exceed because advertising on platforms, even with premium, costs up to $2,000 monthly. 6 to 9 months of exposure costs $18,000 to $20,000. This expense generates leads from that traffic for processing. Two scenarios. First, going beyond 53 million. So 40 million was the total expense, including absolutely everything, right? 53 million was the final exit value. So a significant 24% was the net profit. And as for the concept of compound interest, since the entire period of holding the property, from the exact moment we initially buy and then diligently put in the money, you see, here it's clearly entered in October. Oh, wait, no. It's important to clarify that the final outcome, the exit strategy we are discussing, is certainly not a staggering figure of 53 million. This particular number, 53 million, is not the correct valuation or the expected result we are aiming for in this scenario, but rather something entirely different.
the number in question is precisely 50. It represents a significant quantity.
And
The exit.
70% of the entry was compound interest. It's realistic to do this. You need patience and the right property. I can show more property viewing videos because you see, it's important.
That should be more than sufficient for the time being.
This item is truly exceptionally beautiful, possessing an aesthetic quality that genuinely captivates the eye. I find myself profoundly drawn to it, experiencing a deep sense of appreciation for its intricate details and harmonious design. The craftsmanship is remarkably fine, contributing to an overwhelmingly positive and delightful experience. It evokes a profound sense of admiration and pleasure, making it something I wholeheartedly cherish and enjoy observing.
Here, they constructed in general, these beautiful marble slabs were carefully installed in front of the grand villa.
Second,
Video from the inside.
In general, the villa is offered for sale fully furnished, with all the essential furniture included for your convenience. So here, marble is in front of the villa. Inside, the villa is sold furnished. This is the first bedroom and bathroom. Moving on, we have bedroom number 2, a spacious and inviting room that offers direct access to a charming private balcony. This balcony provides a wonderful outdoor space, perfect for enjoying a morning coffee or unwinding in the evening, with potential views of the surrounding area. Next, we come to bedroom number 3, another comfortable and well-proportioned living space within the property. Finally, located conveniently nearby is the dedicated storage room, offering ample space for organizing belongings and keeping the living areas clutter-free, ensuring a tidy and functional home environment.
The expenses will be the same, but it's harder to resell. Please go ahead and buy it, but I don't recommend it for renovation because
It will be harder to resell and the expenses remain.
the expenses will be the same, but the difficulty of reselling will be higher. Now, I just wanted to show you a demonstration. Here is the analytics we have inside. Yes, so we can see, let me do it here, or maybe like this. Now, proudly, we can see the actual time from listing,
Here you go.
like this. That is truly exceptionally nice. It's quite wonderful. Okay, everything's visible now. You can see all available listings, including their numbers, total count, and unit quantities. You can clearly see it. Also, we can observe the various spreads. That's precisely what many people primarily come here for. The crucial thing is, our system inherently possesses several markup types. If we just take the middle branch and the high on board, which is exactly what I strongly recommend and not Garda Homes, then we'll see the pure spreads. These are the properties being advertised. Middle building number, the lower price range. These are properties being advertised from 32 million to 61 million. We can see that about 95% is visible, right? And that's the spread people come for. And many analyze this manually instead of just buying a subscription and saving all that time. There's another point. We can also see spreads taking into account 5 bedroom and 4 bedroom units. So we see all of this, and the percentage is even lower if you don't go in. We also have archives on renovations, and we can see that the average exposure period in the archive is 207 days. You won't see this either, you don't take it into account. We see all the archives, including who was sold and at what price. 207 days is the average exposure period for upgraded villas. And here, this is how the distribution looks. Who is advertising for how long? But overall, if you advertise, that's it.
For a quick sale. Listen, Alexi, could you comment on the work our team does to organize a showing like this? We saw in our CRM system many fake requests, negotiation, tour coordination, and so on. Before showing a property, our team does a huge amount of work.
Tell us more. The investor names and selects search filters accordingly, then gets in touch with us. We set up the dashboard, explain whether it's worth it for them to attend or not, what their expectations should be, and show them analytics-based examples. If there are such deals, they either agree or disagree. Or we provide this data and they go and order a $5,000 DeFi market report. Or they turn to companies like JLL, who specialize in this and can handle it. They'll tell us what they need, and from there, they make their own decisions about who will handle the construction. There's a company called BuildCorp that handles 25% of all renovations on the Palm. Yes, they're expensive, but they do high quality work and are in very high demand. You can't go wrong with them. We negotiate with brokers who are selling the properties. We don't approach the owners directly because we respect the etiquette between brokers, and there are signed contracts and agreements in place. Friends, for those who work with us, we also pay for showings and compensate you. And no one else pays except us. As a broker, if you work with us, we also pay for showings and compensate you, and no one else pays as much as we do for showings, meaning we further motivate you for closing a deal. So the investor gets access to all the properties that are actually on the market and receives a transparent dashboard tool where they can see and access these properties. In addition, we're ready to guide them through the deal, show the property, but before the showing, we want them to save their time by just clicking a button. And we'll be happy if you become our client. Hopefully, we'll be launching on Facebook soon. You can follow the link below. Our managers will explain everything and give you a tour. So, thank you for coming to the
Meeting. Bye.